Hello everyone. This July, 7 separate things are quietly changing that touch the money of almost every pensioner in the country. Not next year, and not when some distant new law finally arrives, but this very month, right where you are sitting now. Some of these 7 changes will cost you dearly if you do absolutely nothing. On the other hand, some of them will quietly hand money back to you, but only if you know they are there and how to claim them. And that is the whole problem with the system we live in, isn't it? Nobody in any official office anywhere has the slightest reason to ring you up and tell you what has changed in your favor. The letter you actually need never comes, or worse, the wrong sort of letter arrives, panic sets in, and life simply carries on exactly as before, while your bank balance takes a hit. Let me give you just one small picture of how this works in reality. Imagine a gentleman who has paid the exact same bills for years. He watches the figures tick up every single summer and never once questions them, simply because that is what he has always done. He trusts the system, assuming that if he were owed something, or being overcharged, someone would flag it. But that is a dangerous assumption to make these days. Today we are going to go through all 7 of these critical changes, one at a time, with the real numbers right in front of you. And let us be clear right now, the 7th one on this list is worth more than the other 6 put together, because it is the one absolute lifesaver that almost nobody ever claims. The job here is to break down the changes that quietly hit your money so you can stay ahead of the game. Let us understand each other properly before moving forward. None of these 7 points is some hidden secret buried away where you could never find it. Every single one is sitting in plain sight, moving this month, while millions of decent, hard-working pensioners carry on as though nothing at all has changed. There has never been a better week than this one to go through them slowly, look at your own household finances, and get in front of them. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that many pensioners could be eligible for a new extra support payment of £200. If you have not heard about this yet, I have left detailed information from an official source in the comments below the video. Make sure to check it out. And now, let us move on to the topic of today's video. So, let us begin with the first change. And it is first on purpose, because it catches the most people completely off guard. This first change turns on its head something a great many pensioners have believed for their whole lives, which is that once you retire, you have finished with the taxman for good. I am incredibly sorry to tell you that this is no longer true. This summer, a great many older people are finding that out the hard way. More and more pensioners are now receiving what is called a Simple Assessment letter, landing on the doormat right through these warm summer months. It is an official letter from the tax office telling you that you owe tax on income that was never taxed before it actually reached your account. In most cases, that means the interest you earned on your hard-earned savings, or perhaps a small private pension that was paid to you without any tax taken off at source. Now, here is the part that genuinely shocks people when they first hear it. Your bank now reports the interest it pays you straight to the tax office every single year, automatically, without you lifting a finger or signing a form. So, when interest rates climbed the way they have these last couple of years, a great many careful savers quietly tipped over the personal allowance line without having the faintest idea it had even happened. And then, months later, a brown envelope arrives out of nowhere asking for money. If one of these letters lands on your welcome mat, the first thing to do is not to panic, and the second thing is to definitely not simply pay it blindly. These assessments are worked out by a central computer system, and computers are not always right. You must check the figures against your own bank statements, line by line. Look very carefully at whether the starting rate for savings, or your standard personal allowance, should have wiped that tax liability out altogether. Because, for a pensioner on a modest income, it very often should. A wrong letter paid without a second glance is just money handed over that you never owed in the first place. Think of a careful woman in her 70s who saved all her life. She moved her savings to a better interest rate when told to, doing nothing wrong at all. Then, one morning, a brown envelope arrives asking for money she is entirely sure she does not owe. She is not a tax dodger. She simply saved, interest rates rose, and a computer noticed. That is why you must check the figures before you reach for your checkbook. The second change arrives on the very first day of the month, and it lands heavily on every single home in the land, and that is your energy bill. The price cap that sets what you can be charged for your gas and electricity is reset 4 times a year, and one of those major resets falls right at the start of this month. What that means in plain terms is that the rate you pay for each individual unit of energy has just moved, and the standing charge you pay every single day, before you have even switched on a single light, has moved along with it. Now, here is the mistake that costs people so dearly. They believe the energy price cap is a total limit on their bill, a firm ceiling on what they can legally be charged across the year. It is nothing of the sort. The cap only limits the price of each unit and the daily standing charge. If you use more energy, you pay more money, with no upper limit at all. So, the moment this new rate lands, the very first thing you must do is take a manual meter reading on the first of the month and give that reading to your supplier straight away. If you do not, they are completely free to estimate your usage. And an estimate from an energy company almost always lands in their favor, not in yours. That single reading makes sure you are charged the new rate only from the day it actually starts, ensuring not a single penny of the old, higher rate is carried over into your new bill. The third change is a small one on the surface, but it catches people out every single summer, and that is the day your money actually lands in your bank account. Over these summer months, we have various bank holidays. Whenever a state pension or benefit payment is due to fall on one of those public holidays or on a weekend, the system does not wait. It pays you early, usually on the last working day beforehand. Now, that sounds like wonderful news because your money arrives sooner than expected. But here is the quiet trap sitting inside it. If you have direct debits set to go out on or just after your usual pension day, and your money has landed several days early, that balance can look like spare cash sitting in your account. It is incredibly easily spent on everyday things before the big bills actually come round. A great many careful people have been caught short at the end of the month for exactly this reason. It happens because the financial rhythm they had relied on for years quietly shifted underneath them for one single week. So, look at the calendar, note exactly where your payment date moves, and hold that early money back so that it is still safely there when your bills come knocking. The fourth change concerns the biggest single bill most households face once the mortgage is completely gone, and that is your council tax. Councils set their main budgets in the spring, but the summer is when the follow-up letters and the reminders go out. And here is the discount that almost nobody claims. If you live entirely on your own, you are legally entitled to a 25% discount on your bill, called the single-person discount. A heartbreakingly great number of widows and widowers are still paying the full couple's rate years after losing their partner, simply because no one ever told them to ask the local authority. On top of that, if you are on a low income, you can apply for a council tax reduction, which can take anything up to the whole bill away entirely. There is also a lesser-known rule. If someone in the home has a serious condition, such as dementia, and receives a qualifying benefit, they can be disregarded for council tax purposes altogether. The council will never write to you out of the blue to offer any of this. You have to pick up the phone, call them, and ask. And when you do, ask whether the discount can be backdated. In a great many cases, they will look at your history and refund you for a good stretch of time gone by, landing a substantial lump sum back in your bank account. Now, let us pause here for just a moment, because we are about halfway through our list. What is discussed in these short videos is only ever a small part of what can be found with a bit of deep research and digging through the real, raw figures. However, nobody is trying to sell you anything today. Every single recommendation on today's list is entirely free, and you can act on every single one of them right now without any catch at all. So, let us get straight back to our list. The fifth change on our list is genuinely good news, but it comes wrapped in a very stern warning. The moment anything to do with pensioner money is heavily featured in the national news, the criminals come out in full force. So, let us be completely clear about this. Nobody official from HMRC, the Department for Work and Pensions or your local council will ever text you, email you, or telephone you out of the blue, asking for your personal bank details to pay a refund or fix your tax. Turn it off and delete it. Now, here is the excellent news that sits behind that warning. The legal rules that UK banks must follow have been significantly tightened. If you are unfortunately tricked into sending money to a fraudster, what the industry calls an authorized push payment scam, your bank is now required by law to reimburse you in the vast majority of cases up to a very substantial financial limit. For years, innocent people who were cruelly conned were simply told that the money was gone. That is happily no longer the case. But that legal protection only works if you report the fraud to your bank the very moment you realize it has happened. If the worst should happen, ring your bank immediately, tell them plainly that it was a criminal scam, and ask them directly about your right to reimbursement under the new rules. The sixth change is one that comes and goes very quietly through the summer months, council by council, and it involves money that far too few pensioners ever go looking for. Up and down the country, local councils are quietly reopening what is called the Household Support Fund. This is a massive pot of money handed down by the central government to help residents who are struggling with the everyday, rising costs of living. Crucially, that includes a great many pensioners who are living on modest incomes. Depending entirely on where you live, this support can come in the form of direct help toward your winter energy bill, assistance with buying food, supermarket vouchers, or a straight cash payment. Now, here is the reason why almost nobody claims it. The fund is run completely separately by every single individual council. Because of this, there is no single national letter sent out. Each local council quietly opens its own local scheme, sets its own specific eligibility rules, and shares out its allocation of the money until the pot is completely empty. All it takes from you is a quick visit to your own local council's website or a single phone call to their main office asking whether their household support fund is currently open and whether you qualify. It costs you absolutely nothing but a few minutes of your time, but it can mean real, tangible help arriving just when it is needed most. And now we reach the seventh one. If you take only one single thing away from everything heard today, let it be this next point, because this final change is worth more than all the other six put together. The seventh change centers around pension credit. On its own merits, pension credit works to top up the weekly income of any pensioner in the country who falls below a specific financial line, bringing a single person up to around £227 a week, and rather more than that for a couple. But that weekly top-up payment is not even the main prize here. The true, incredible power of pension credit is everything else it automatically unlocks for you the very moment you are awarded it, even if you only qualify for a single pound of the benefit itself. Once you are on it, your NHS dental treatment becomes completely free. Your television license becomes entirely free of charge once you reach the age of 75. Your council tax bill can be reduced right down to zero. You automatically become entitled to the warm home discount off your electricity bill, as well as extra cash help through the coldest winter months. Most importantly of all, it is now the safest and surest route to securing your winter fuel payment. The government's own official figures put the average total value of everything attached to pension credit at around £3,900 a year. And remember, that substantial sum sits directly on top of the weekly cash payment itself. Around 800,000 pensioners in this country are legally entitled to pension credit right now, today, and are simply not claiming it because they checked years ago and were a few pounds over the line. But the rules move and the thresholds widen over time. So, please, do not treat one old answer from the past as though it were carved in stone forever. Use the free pension credit calculator on the government's official website or call Age UK. It costs you nothing to find out, and it can completely change your whole year. That brings us to the one overarching thing most worth remembering today. Roughly 1 in 3 pensioners in this country do not claim absolutely everything they are legally owed. This happens simply because nobody ever stood on their doorstep and told them it was there for the taking. Let us say this as plainly as possible. There is no shame whatsoever in claiming any of these funds. You paid heavily into this national system through every single working year of your life. This is not a handout, and it is absolutely not charity. This is your own money finally making its way back to you when you need it at last. So, let us draw the whole list together one final time. The first is the taxman's simple assessment letter, which you must check against your own statements. The second is your energy price cap, which reset on the first of the month, meaning you need to take a manual meter reading and send it in immediately. The third is your payment dates, which shift around the summer bank holidays, meaning you must hold that early money back for your upcoming bills. The fourth is your council tax, which can be cut significantly by the single-person discount or a low-income reduction. The fifth is your new legal right to be reimbursed by your bank if you are unfortunately scammed, so report any fraud fast. The sixth is the Household Support Fund reopening at your local council, so call them to ask whether it is open. And the seventh is the master key of them all, pension credit, which unlocks an average of around £3,900 a year in extra benefits and discounts. Go through this list slowly this evening. Take action this week and make sure you get what is yours. If you found this helpful, please send it to someone else who needs to see it. Hit the subscribe button and stick around. There is plenty more vital information coming your way soon, so stay tuned for the next video.